Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Itch and Scratch Show. I am your host, Sheekha Singh. Today, we have a very interesting topic that I feel is going to be useful for most of us here, especially the working professionals. We are going to talk about how to establish boundaries with your employer or your coworkers. We will also talk about work life balance and how to avoid burnout. So tune in and let's get started. Our guest today is Sara Mooney. She is a neurospicy nerd from the middle of nowhere. Sarah has been an amazing coworker in the past, and she is now a QA manager for a reputed firm in North America. She decides to do her best at work, at home, everywhere, personally and professionally. She was actually one of the first few members who I reached out to when I wanted to publish my book and I wanted to write about how it is in growing up in the US and why is it that not many girls pick up STEM or STEM related careers. She was the one who gave a very detailed and very realistic explanation for everything, and I have always reached out to her whenever I needed professional guidance. She has been a huge supporter from day one for me, and I really value everything that Sarah has taught me in these last few years. Um, Her mantra is ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail again. Hello, everyone. Today we have a special guest with us, Sara Mooney from Nebraska. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Sheikha. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited too. I have had the pleasure of working with Sarah in the past, and she is one of the coolest people I've met, especially in Nebraska. So, welcome. Today, we are going to talk about how to set boundaries with your employer and your coworkers. Sarah has some amazing insights for us, so let's get started. Okay, Sarah, I have a very important question for you. You've been handling so much over the last few years. You're a mom, you're an amazing professional. You handle a lot of other stuff like your work, your personal life, everything. So, how important is work life balance to you, especially at this age or at this stage, wherever you are personally and professionally?
So, work life balance has always been a drum I have beat from the very beginning. It's an incredibly important thing to try and strive for. I don't know that anyone ever fully achieves it because, life happens and things try to grab you from here and there. And we can do our best to mitigate that. But the biggest and most important part is holding fast to your beliefs, your values, and the things that are important to you as a person. So at the end of the day, who we are as people is much more important than what we accomplish academically, professionally. Even much more important is making sure that we're taking care of our basic humanity. And we can't do that if we let one thing take over our entire identity. So it's always been super important to me.
You mentioned about how being an important person is more like a good person is more important than anything else. How do you maintain your cool? I know there are situations where like, why did this happen to me? And like, why me? Or, everything comes down at once. How do you handle that?
Really poorly in the first like 10 to 15 minutes, if I'm being honest. Um, if you are like me and one thing, I'm not neurotypical. Like I have an ADHD diagnosis, and some other health things going on. So when one of my pieces falls out of balance, it can feel catastrophic in the moment.
Right.
And I have learned that I have to let it. If I try to fight against the sky is falling, what am I going to do? That I can't get to the next step, which is, okay, this is a thing that has happened. What are we going to do about it? So I have to
Right.
freak out first. And that's an important thing to learn about yourself is like, when a crisis happens, and even if it is an imagined crisis, you know, let yourself feel what you're going to feel first, because if you try to squish that, you're not going to get to the end of whatever that crisis may be
True.
in a timely manner at all. So let yourself feel first and then act.
Nice. Feel first and then act. Gonna remember that. Okay, so congratulations on the new role. You are now a leader, and I know you're amazing at what you do. So, at your workplace, now that you're a leader, if not even in the past, has there been any situation where you felt the need to establish boundaries with your employers or your coworkers?
Oh, absolutely. And that can change from day to day. Sometimes it can be a hard and fast boundary that can never be broken or should never be broken. And sometimes it's just the listen, I'm at an 11 right now and I cannot handle one more thing. So being aware of yourself, again, being in touch with what you're feeling and where you're at, and then being able to try and advocate for yourself in the calmest, most rational way you're capable of in that moment. Whether if it's an employer that is going to start demanding more and more and more of your time more often, going in and talking with whomever your leader might be or with your team and lay it on the line. You don't have to give them all of the detail, like, oh, I can't handle this because this and this. But here are my working hours. Here is my availability and my bandwidth. Here are the places where I feel like I could be very helpful to you, and I'm willing to do so. However, I cannot do it at 9:30 at night, or I am not capable of doing it this week because of this. Honesty at the very end of it is the most important part. If you are transparent and communicative with the people who are trying to push, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, okay, we understand where you're coming from. And more often than not, I found they're willing to support you with that boundary. I come up
Right.
more often with people wanting to accept that from me when I'm honest and transparent than I am anybody trying to push past it.
Right, right. You gave a very great example, but what if, especially most of our listeners are from India, and the workplace culture has been changing for the last decade or so? Earlier, it used to be okay, you're on call, the client is going to be in North America, so you have to be available to answer questions or meetings or whatever it is. Now I've seen a shift, but there's still a lot of people out there who are scared to speak up, and especially I don't want to make this sound, or I don't want to be biased, but I have noticed that it's the women who hesitate to speak up and who are very hesitant to establish that boundary. So what would you suggest for someone who's just maybe starting out right now, and who wants to impress other people, so they do that by working extra hours or staying up late and be like pinging when they're not supposed to, like, oh yeah, just to show that we are online, we are working, very loyal.
I have seen that. I've been so happy to work with and learn about different cultures. Especially in the tech space, I get to work with lots of people who are coming at me from different ways of thinking, and I have noticed that, especially um, with a woman in particular. She's on my team and she's not quite my age, but she's not, I would not consider her a millennial at all. Helping her understand that the expectation here with what we are doing and who we are is that she's a person first and she gets to be an employee second. I also
Right.
recognize that runs exactly antithetical to everything she's ever been taught and everything she's ever known. And it's hard. And in trying to lead her, I try to be very, very vocal with, I understand this is difficult. When this gets difficult, please talk to me. I would say for young professionals, go back to the honesty thing. When you are giving of yourself, make sure that it's coming from a place of passion and not from a place of, this is the thing that I have to do.
Right.
And be transparent. Be willing to say, I would love to be there for our clients 24/7. I'm excited about this. However, I also have this, and this that I must take care of personally. How can I still be available and effective in a way that's helpful to our clients without taking away time from my friends, my family, my hobbies, these things that make
Right.
me a person?
Right.
And also remembering that at the end of the day, none of us are going to stay at the same company for very long anymore. That has gone.
Yeah.
And when you yourself are easily replaceable, remember that you can replace them just as easily. You are a talented, smart, strong person. If this doesn't fit, don't be afraid to go find one that does. It may take some time, it may be arduous and frightening, but go find a place that will value your humanity first and your talent second,
Wow.
and keep working until you find it.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. See, I never thought of it that way. I only read things and I only thought about that first part of that sentence that you just said, you are replaceable. But my mind never went in that direction. Like, oh yeah, they are replaceable too. See, that's so cool. I wish everybody had managers and leaders like you, Sarah. That would be so amazing.
Oh gosh. I have to say though, I've taken a lot of this. I'm Gen X. I'm very firmly Gen X.
Right.
But I have been watching your generation, the millennial generation, start to stand up and say, hey, no.
Yeah.
And I've watched them start to lead and lead from a place that comes from the heart. And I thought, I want to be that. That's what I want to
Right.
do. If I ever get into a leadership position, which I was reticent to do for a very long time, if I want to get into a leadership position, that's who I want to emulate. That's what I want. So
Yep.
that's what I've done. So
I
thank you.
remember, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we just start to prioritize work so much, and especially if the work culture is, I don't want to use the word toxic, but if it's, the type where you are supposed to be available 24/7, or because you are in a role that is super crucial and you're responsible for the releases, whatever, irrespective of whether you're on call or not, you feel obligated to reply, especially to those messages, even when you don't want to, and even when you're focusing on your hobby or you're watching a movie with your family, whatever. So what you said makes so much sense. Like, don't forget who you are and you're a person first. That's so cool. So you mentioned about millennials, and thank you on behalf of all the millennials. I'm gonna thank you for that. So how do you think Gen Z and millennials are handling the workplace boundaries, which you feel your generation didn't do a better job of it?
I am so proud of you guys. And I don't want that to come off as very condescending, because that's not meant that way. I think that as we age, we can fall into a trap. I've seen it with the generation before me. They started out with the peace love movement, and that during the 60s and 70s, this was just, it was so free and all of that. And I've watched them become the generation before.
Yeah.
And so I think, with all of the 10 minutes of thought that I've done on this and zero research, I think what happens is as we get older, we stop kind of finding new people to be with at a certain point. We find our friend group, we find our found family, and you get stuck in an echo chamber. And an echo chamber will be the death of anything creative and anything forward moving. And it needs to be avoided at any cost if we can. And what I think I'm so excited to watch, especially on social media, watching Gen Z, watching millennials say, no, you know what? We are going to stay connected. We're going to stay present within not just our own community, but the global community as a whole.
Yep.
And so I think what is happening now is because you guys are reaching out and building communities across all kinds of lines, that you're constantly being shown different ways of thinking, different ways of working, different ways of doing. And it's helped you sidestep some
Yes.
of this entrapment of growing older, which is if you can avoid growing older without the absolute avoidance of growing older, I highly suggest it. Stay as young as possible, even if it's just in here. But you're not in that echo chamber. And so watching the millennials lead and come into their own professionally and try to start putting a stop to that, where Gen X, we started to try and then echo chamber.
Yeah.
The millennials and Gen Z have this ability to keep that line of communication open and it's crossing. And Gen Z has just said, absolutely not.
Not.
I'm only here for a short time. I'm going to enjoy it. Does that have its own pitfalls? 100%. Not saying that it's perfect, but I couldn't be more proud of how you guys are all standing up for who you are as people and who you are together, as, each other, caring for people that aren't in your community, aren't in your circle, and making sure that everybody has a way to kind of retain their humanity and still be successful and go forward. So I'm so proud of you guys. I could just never stop smiling.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. This reminds me of a situation that happened. So this person on my team, he's amazing. He over delivers and just a rock star on the team. And so I've noticed that he's always working overtime and not showing it to people. And when I asked him why, he just said, I don't want to give the clients or anybody on the team a chance to point me or just say, why isn't this done yet? That's these days shouldn't be working overtime. And if you're working overtime, then that means you're not communicating effectively to what your deliverables are or your time estimates are. So yeah, I get that. That's like different. But to me, I would never see myself working overtime unless it's a very critical prod issue where system down.
Oh, sure. That's the important line right there is sometimes we do. Sometimes we do have to work later. Like all last
Yeah.
week, I had dinner with my family, got my daughter's homework and all of that stuff taken care of. And then I had to come back downstairs and dad had to do bedtime because it was critical. It was very, very important.
Yes.
But if I do that all the time, and if my teammates do that all the time, then when I say to leadership, I need more people, they say, why?
Yeah.
We see everything getting done on time. I'm like, yeah, it's getting done on time, but now I've got one person out sick for a week because they've worked themselves to the bone. Like understanding that we can't get what we need if we do this stuff in a silo and in silence.
Thank you. So again, so that was a great example, Sarah. So you said, people fall sick because of burnout, and we hardly realize that because we've been putting so much effort and time on work and just staring at screens 9 to 5, again after 5, whatever. So what suggestion do you have for people to avoid burnout? How do you think they can avoid burnout?
It's a really great question, and it's one I haven't fully answered for myself yet. But under the lens of just as a working professional, we have study after study after study of the importance of work-life balance. And now those studies are starting to move over to what they're calling work-health balance, because work-life balance is important. And yes, being able to go out and do the things you love to do is very important. But the burnout is causing actual medical problems for people. It's detrimental to their health in ways that go beyond just a mental burnout and the need for a break. I had run.com, runn.com. They had taken some of the metadata from several of the work-life balance studies and then overlaid some medical information on top of that. And what they saw was really jarring, was that the people who were not taking the time to go out and, if they're avid water skiers or knitters or what have you, people that weren't taking that time, not only were they not as productive and effective at work, they were also getting sick. And it even just a cold or something like that we would normally be able to kind of work through and brush off. If you're in a state of burnout, not only is your brain really suffering for that, your immune system is suffering too. Correct. And now we have to start looking very hard at how much is this worth our actual physical health on top of what is it doing to our mental health. So my advice is, again, go back to your humanity. What is it that makes you you outside of the letters after your name or the title on your email signature? What is it that makes you a person? And is it a mom?
Deep.
Are you a mom? Then go be a mom. But even that, being a mom, being a pet parent, being in a relationship of any kind, you're a caregiver, regardless of whether you're a parent. And you cannot give proper care to the people that you love in your life if your cup is empty.
True.
It's
100%.
the oxygen mask in the airplane again. Make sure that yours is on. Make sure that your cup is full, and do those things that you as a person like to do with just yourself, and then start to branch out. Make sure that you're doing the things that you like to do with the people that you love or with the animals that you love. And so making sure that you're present for yourself so that you can be present for them, all of that is going to make you a happier person, and it's going to make you a healthier person, both physically and mentally. And that is going to make you a top performer at work. End of sentence.
Perfect. Perfect. Ren, those are some deep thoughts. Who are you outside your email signature? Oh my God. That is, wow. Wow, that's so deep. That makes you think. I know, like, I brought this up several times in my posts and my videos and everything. I know that makes you think. Okay, we've had this amazing conversation, Sarah, and some amazing insights, some very deep thoughts. But before we end, I have one last question. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, golly. I have so many of them. Poorly made cups of tea.
Oh, yes, the tea
Absolutely.
obsession.
Yes, poorly made cups of tea. If you don't know how to make it and you want to give me tea, that's beautiful. And I will accept it and I'll be so glad. But if you know me at all, learn. Like, I get mad at a certain coffee empire with a green logo, because for all that they try to do, they cannot brew a decent cup of tea, and it's not that hard. I also, professionally, my biggest pet peeve, and I think you'll understand this too, is the phrase, "it works on my machine."
Yeah. Oh, yes. That
Like,
every
that's
QA
great.
has heard every time.
Like, great, it works on your machine. I'm so glad we'll ship your machine. Can we make it work on everybody's machine, please?
Wow. Yes. And I know, right? Like, it's ingrained in their veins. The first thing, hey, this is not working. Like, it's working on my machine. Like,
Great. Did you
textbook
pull down locally? Are
QA101.
you having all of the other problems that production has? No, you don't.
Wow. That's.
Calm myself
Oh,
down now.
this was so much fun, Sarah. Thank you again. I am so glad. I'm so happy that we got to have this conversation, and I actually learned a lot from this. Think who you are outside of your email signature. Wow.
We make
That
shirts.
is so cool. I know, right? All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been very enjoyable. And continue to go forth and kick butt, Sheekha. I'm so proud of you.
Cool, dude. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right.